We are the Ministry of the Real Truth. At this point in time, we feel a real need to once and forever, for all, prove that Jesus the Christ actually existed beyond the mere claims, well, it says so in the Bible, so it must be true, so that no one can any longer claim that he never existed, that Yeshua Mashiach or Jesus the Messiah never existed, because the evidence presented will be too overwhelming for one to continue to do so. This must be presented and verified as established fact. The evidence must prove itself evident beyond any doubt. So the information that we're about to present all must prove the writers of the original text, or the authors of those manuscripts, must be proven irrefutable and infallible in order for their writings to be deemed irrefutable or infallible. So we'll strive to present our evidence that we feel is proving itself as established fact. The evidence proves itself as evident, or 100% evident, and the authors or writers therefore are proven irrefutable, which deems the text or the manuscripts irrefutable and infallible. We'll strive to use logic and common sense, and also to stay within reality, because we know that someone or something created us human beings, bringing us into existence. Ultimately, it was either a deity, or God as we know it, or God as we call it, or an extraterrestrial conglomeration or confederation that created us and brought us into existence via DNA, genetic splicing, hybridization, etc. There must be solid evidence presented, proofs that we were created by A or B. It's one or the other. But we're open to C or D. We at the Ministry of the Real Truth will have to investigate both sides of this coin through personal research, etc., in order to bring all the real evidence. Putting the facts into order, if we can, as best as we can, in the proper and exact era's time frame, according to that ancient era time frame. In AD 70, the Roman Titus enters, or rather invades, Jerusalem, burns the temple, massacres and slaughters the temple priests, etc., and the people, and plunders the holy relics, carries them off. Survivors live on because they fled the scene, right? The church at Jerusalem, of which the original disciples of Yeshua Mashiach, or Jesus the Messiah, gathered, also fled. It has been said that someone amongst those disciples had written down as a witness what the Christ said and did, and another in this plight, in this predicament, when the church was being burned, etc., picked them up and fled the horrid scene and ran across land, etc., i.e. Thomas or Adai, and perhaps went through China thereafter, as a stele was found there, as attested by the native-born Aramaic speaking translator Victor N. Alexander. Or he actually saw it, because remember, honestly, there may have been a photo of him looking at it, not really sure, or else he read about it online or something. This particular stele was found in an area of China, and it had Chinese on the top of it, and underneath it had Aramaic underneath it. So Victor N. Alexander apparently gathered that someone who both spoke and wrote Aramaic went through that area and later left a stele there. It has been stated by the Church of the East that Thomas founded the original Apostolic Church of the East, and he went to India around and founded 7 churches there before zealous Brahmins ran him through with swords, and he became martyred. Apparently, disciples went on to China and even Japan and preached the good news about Yeshua Mashiach, or Jesus the Christ. We will take a look at the Assyrian church and their history, as told by the head patriarchs, etc., of both the ancient past and those today, and the translator Victor Nimrod Alexander, of their said hidden, therefore preserved manuscripts. That was hidden from Constantine, Emperor Constantine, who wanted to destroy, was hell bent on destroying that church, i.e. the Roman Catholic Church, the Mohammedans, now Islam, etc. So these supposed hidden, therefore preserved manuscripts were hidden and preserved, so they were intact for over 2,000 years. They were never translated into any other foreign language, as the high priest knew the language, so read from it to the congregation or mass. They do that today. Who also speak the Aramaic, Syriac, etc. These high priests are reading from their liturgy. They never modified it or translated the original ancient, very old manuscripts into Greek, Hebrew, Latin, or Latin, Old Germanic, English, etc. It wasn't until Victor Alexander sought to translate the original Aramaic scriptures into English, where he was told by a high priest that he was translating from the wrong text, the Eastern Syriac Peshitta, and he bought a Bible format version of the hidden preserved manuscripts in the original Galilean Aramaic, etc., from this high priest of that church, the Church of the East, again, who informed that the Eastern Syriac is actually wrong. That he discovered many others who had translated the Aramaic had botched it. Okay, we're going to have a look at his actual translation and read from page 3 or 5 of that, and his statement in regards to the Bibles today. Okay, he states in his translation note, page 3, the Disciples' New Testament is a translation of the ancient Aramaic New Testament scriptures of the ancient Church of the East directly into English. The ancient Church of the East began in Jerusalem at the time of the disciples and apostles of Yeshua Mashiach, or Jesus the Messiah. The ancient Aramaic scriptures were compiled into one book in the middle of the 4th century AD by the scribes of that ancient Church of the East in the city of Urhai, later called Edessa. Urhai was in Asia Minor, today's Turkey. It had the first university in the world where scriptures, the sciences, medicine, mathematics, history and literature were taught. The idiomatic wording of the majority of the passages is in the text of the translation, and the literal wordings are given in footnotes. He always provides footnotes per book, per chapter, per verse in this Aramaic New Testament. And the literal wordings are given in footnotes. Sometimes the literal wording is left in the text. At such times the footnote indicates that the literal wording is retained, and the footnote gives the equivalent of the English language idiom or words. When there are no equivalent words in the English language for a word or phrase, the implied words are included in brackets or parentheses. When there are extra words in ancient Aramaic text that will sound redundant in English, the additional word or words are included in parentheses. Okay, it's brackets and it's parentheses. This way none of the words in the original scriptures are left out. Footnotes appear at the bottom of each chapter as lit.rar.id. This stands for literal Aramaic idiom. It's the way they express themselves to bring it across to the reader. It's all to do with Eastern mindset, etc. So you need to learn the Eastern mindset, or adopt and then adapt Eastern mindset. When it comes to names of people, there's only one name that sounds the same both in English and the Aramaic language, and that name is Adam. All the other names in the Aramaic language sound different in English. Therefore, Victor Alexander has chosen to retain 3 names in the original. The first is the name of Joshua. Joshua is called Jesus in English. He felt that the name Joshua should be pronounced correctly, Yahshua. The second is the name of Allah. Allah is called God in English. There is no word in the Aramaic Hebrew language. There's no such word in the Aramaic Hebrew language. The third is the name of the Messiah from Meshika, the Aramaic. Messiah is called Christ in English. Meshika means the anointed one, or anointed. Messiah is an acceptable rendition of this word, while Christ comes from the Greek word for oil, and therefore the anointed in Greek. Since the New Testament was originated in the ancient Aramaic language and not in Greek, the word Christ is not used in this translation. Ancient Aramaic is a Western designation for that language that emerged out of Nineveh, capital Ashur, A-S-H-U-R, around 800 BC. This language is simply known by the Church of the East of today as Lishana Atika, ancient tongue. It was the first alphabetical language invented by the Ashurite people. There is a monument in the British Museum which has this language etched into it and marked as belonging to the period of 800 BC. The modern scholars of Judaism refer to this language today as Asherite. Yeshua preached, as Jesus the Messiah, preached and read the scriptures in this language. The ancient Aramaic is therefore the scribal language of the scriptures, and it is sacred. That's why we say the original ancient sacred scribal old tongue or language, and we're trying to differentiate between that original dead language that's been revived by 15 Alexander and these modern dialects or derivatives like Syriac, modern Hebrew or Israeli Hebrew, and possibly modern Greek and the Latinized form of Greek. Joshua, or Jesus the Messiah, preached and read the scriptures in this language. The ancient Aramaic is therefore the scribal language of the scriptures, and it is sacred. It is still being used in the liturgy of many Eastern churches today, including the Church of the East of the Atorai, A-T-O-U-R-A-I, and the Orthodox Church of the Sourai, S-O-U-R-A-I, in India. It is, however, a liturgical language, which was not translated correctly until Victor N. Alexander found out about the fact that it has never been translated into any modern vernacular of any of the churches still using it. The American missionaries of the 19th century attempted to translate the scripture into modern Aramaic, Syriac, but botched it. They messed it up, as they adapted it to the King James Version and used by them at the time. The Urmia, North Iran, version of the Bible is essentially the American Bible translated into modern Aramaic. Introduces here. By the way, the American missionaries have translated all the Bibles of all the countries of the world from the American Bible. That is why all the Bibles thus translated, the ones you got today, contain the same errors in translation and pseudo-Christian doctrines, half-truth or false, right, that have caused so much misery in the world for 200 years. The earlier plagiarized versions of the Bible were the Greek original and the Latin Vulgate. These versions were translated by Martin Luther, William Tyndale, and other Protestant translators over the last 5 centuries from the Greek Septuagint and the Greek original, the Greek New Testament translation from the Aramaic. So that's why we stress Brian with the beard, Santa Claus beard and the glasses, and his video, the Bible Society and Their Lies, the American Bible Society and Their Lies, because he's basically unbeknowingly is confirming what Victor Alexander is saying here, and also Victor N. Alexander unbeknowingly is verifying what he is saying, right, through their personal research. These then were further translated by the American translators until we have the situation today for all those versions of the Bible, for all these versions of the Bible and thousands of denominations, each with their own individual interpretations. The Disciples' New Testament, or the Aramaic New Testament, is then the only accurate and non-prejudicial translation of the original New Testament scriptures by a native Aramaic-speaking translator. He's from Bet Nahrein, or Mesopotamia, Syria, and he speaks that Aramaic. He's been translating these scriptures for over 15 years. Okay, so someone out there says, his exegesis, his footnotes, his exegesis, etc., is bias, prejudice, all this sort of stuff. People say, that's the type of translators, it all depends on the translators, if they're adding their own personal bias or prejudice, etc., etc. Okay, he made his mission not to do that, and to translate all, staying as faithful as he can to those original manuscripts, and when translating into English, having the nearest English equivalent where possible, because there's a lot of words that there is no English equivalent for it, like milter and versus so he had to look around for a word that would befit that, and he found manifestation. On the back of this Aramaic New Testament, translated by P.H.d. Alexander, the back cover, Yeshua Mashiach, or Jesus the Messiah, spoke in the Galilean dialect of Asherit, the language spoken at Nineveh at the time of Jonah the prophet, commonly known as ancient Aramaic. This is the language in which the disciples and the apostles preached the gospel, and the scribes recorded the scriptures. The New Testament has been preserved in this sacred scribal language since the apostolic age. The whole Bible was originated in this language. Yeah, because they hid it, these texts, like Thomas, whatever Christ did, said, whatever, what they witnessed as witnesses, or as testators, they someone wrote it down. Might be Matthew or something like that, or someone else, because obviously a tax collector might have those skills, writing and mathematical skills, or that sort of stuff. So it was preserved in the sacred scribal language since the apostolic age, because when the church of Jerusalem was burnt, AD 70, the temple or whatever was destroyed, or this basically might be referring just to that when that church was destroyed, right? Someone picked up these texts and ran with it. Okay, went across lands, probably went through China, because there's a stele that supposedly P.H.d. Alexander, when he did his travels to the British Museum, French Louvre in Paris, or whatever museum, whatever, right? He might have come across it, him and his wife, and they went to Norway and all this sort of stuff, and he found that it had Chinese up the top, and to his surprise it had Aramaic underneath. So it indicated to him that somebody must have ran through there, right? Must have gone through there and put Aramaic on there, and then the stele was put up. Okay, so he states here some Aramaic New Testament. This translation is made from the original Aramaic text directly into English, bypassing the errors of the Greek original, the Latin Vulgate, and all the other Western translations made from them. This is an effort to rekindle that apostolic faith, or the apostolic faith of those disciples, in the name of Yeshua Mashiach, Jesus the Messiah, throughout the world. P.H.d. Alexander, translator. Okay, so we're going to look at this video of his, okay, to hear what he has to say.
Hello, this is Vic Alexander. I've been translating the scriptures for 15 years. I've already completed the New Testament and published it. And now I'm doing the Old Testament commentaries. So today I'm going to start with...
Well, he was at that time, but he hasn't completed all of those because he had some issues, etc., etc. So we can bring you the entire New Testament through our videos, through our channel and our videos, but a lot of the Old Testament we can't until he finishes or completes the entire Old Testament. Unfortunately, his website was down, but we found a way, fortunately, to resurrect it and present it to all via our channel, the Ministry of the Real Truth, and the videos that we create and upload.
The book of Genesis, and I'm going to pick on one concept only, and that is the creation of Adam and Eve. So I'm going to read from the Sapra Brita, which means the script.
Okay, so what he said there was not Superb Rita, he said the Sapraya Brita, which is the original ancient Aramaic sacred scribal Old Tongue, which he translated into English. So it's the Supraya Brita, or as you know it, or all of you know it, Genesis in English. Yeah, it's a problem with these subtitles, to give you the wrong word. So it's not Superb Brita, it's Supraya Brita.
scripture or scroll of creation, which is how we call Genesis. It's also how modern Jews today call the first book of Moses. They call it Brashit. So
That was Bereshit, not brush eat.
I begin from Ikvalim Ella, chapter 1, verse 1. Brashit bara alaha yachmaya.
It'll be Brashit bara Allah Yamaya. Something like that.
Barid alaha is also means son of God. And Brashit means at the
Bereshit.
beginning, before
That's Bereshit.
the beginning, before the foundations of the universe. This term I have done a whole tape on just this one word. Brashit encompasses the whole scriptures, because bara is light, bara is sun, brishit means at the beginning, at the head. It has a lot more meanings. The word just made up two letters, beat, uresh, that is B and R, has vast roots and meanings in the language. So
what he does on his down website that we resurrected, right? It has there, in the beginning, the Son of God, with a footnote indication, created the heavens and the earth. And then in the footnotes, he's basically suggesting you compare it with John 1 verse 1. Yeah? In the beginning, as the beginning, the Milta, M-I-L-T-A, Andrew Gabriel Roth puts it as the Milta from the Eastern Syriac Peshitta. Okay, so there's no English equivalent or meaning to that word in the Aramaic, right? So you had to run around and find it, and you found manifestation, which basically means that it was something like everybody knew God, right? They never saw God, and there was just something that wasn't yet revealed, but eventually it was revealed. Okay, in John 1 verse 1 to 3 or 4, okay, stating in the beginning was the Milta, okay, with the manifestation, and God was the embodiment of that manifestation. So it's basically revealing, it's been revealed that he was always there in the beginning as the beginning. Okay. There's a lot of people out there say, oh no, there never was a Jesus Christ, never existed, he's not the Messiah, dreaming, all this sort of stuff, you wish, right? So from the very first sentence of the Brita, or Genesis, it states in the beginning the Milta, with the manifestation, the embodiment of God, or God being the embodiment of it, created the heavens and the earth. He was in the beginning, and he was that beginning. So that verifies that he did exist, yeah, just in his heavenly form. Yeah. Okay, so this Church of the East, going back over our notes, stated that it was never translated, this ancient sacred scribal old tongue or language, Lishana Atika Sapreya, of the Kitab Asheret or Asheri, was never translated into any foreign language, as the high priest knew the language, so read it from the congregation, read it from the liturgy to the congregation or mass, who also spoke the Aramaic or Syriac, etc., from their liturgy. They never modified it over the centuries or translated the original ancient, very old manuscripts into Greek, Latin, Old Germanic, English, etc. It wasn't until Victor in Alexander sought to translate the original Aramaic, Galilean Aramaic scriptures into English, and he was doing the Syriac, translated from the Eastern Peshitta apparently, and this high priest that he met, befriended, said, why'd you do that for? Because the Syriac's actually wrong. He gives a reason, something like, well, they translated the Greek using the Syriac. So he buys this Bible format style copy of the original manuscripts, and he finds a method to revive that old ancient dead language that no one uses, right? And then he translated it into English. So all those out there think they're smarter than him, they got all the qualifications, they've actually learned the modern vernacular, the Syriac, or the modern Hebrew, or modern Greek, or some Latinized form of Greek. That's what they're using. They're not using this original ancient Galilean Aramaic, which supposedly is of the Ninevite Aramaic, which Jonah spoke, and it was underneath the cuneiform text of the Ashurbanipals, or the king. When Jonah went to Nineveh, this king says, right, we're going to convert to Jonah's God, the one true God. Let's smash all our idols and put on sackcloth and throw dust all over ourselves and do that to the animals as well, because we're taking on his God, right? So apparently it was underneath the cuneiform on these tablets.